Research Association and executives and members of the marketing community. I want to share experience with you. My presentation is very short, it's about 30 minutes. I hope you will have the kind of content you are looking for. But I thought I should share my experience because with you, I've been a little privileged to have done also little things all over the place. And when I met Mr. Fashaki again and we were chatting and we were thinking about what to discuss, I felt let's go out of the conventions of what we call marketing research. I actually think bigger. The whole essence of the reason why the industry, why clients do research is to get insight. And let's situate what we want to do within a broader context of what marketing people do to get consumer insight for business. And put the research agency and its work and research function within that broader context. I thought that would be something more interesting. What that will also do is that we can take a perspective at marketing research in the context of industry where it has not been traditionally situated, which is the service industry today, which is now bigger than the manufacturing industry, where market research was traditionally based. I hope it will be useful. I will be sharing my experience and a couple of the kind of frustrations clients might have had with research agencies when the client will say, I do not think this research is useful or this research is talking to my business, especially when you are dealing with non-product brands that traditional research agencies have not been used to in the beginning. So that's what I want to talk about. I hope it will open up space for more interesting dialogue at the end of my presentation. So I want to talk about building business and consumer insights in a pervasive world of internal and external data. And the president has mentioned that the clients have got access to the internet. That says it all. But it's actually more than that. The client has got his own access. We are living in a world where data is far more pervasive than it has been when I started to do marketing. In those days, you will say that when you're a marketing manager, you need to wait for your research agency to bring you channel competition consumer data before you can do anything. Anything you have to do would have to be a guesstimate. Today, even without your research agency, the world of data is all over you as a marketing manager. And the potential for success is very high, as well as the potential to be confused in a world where data is all over the marketing function. I will be talking about what can we do both at the research agency level and at the client level to make a sense out of this pervasiveness of data so that we can get consumer insight and not be overwhelmed or consumed by it. I'll be talking about a couple of simple things which I've learned from my experience working from consumer, telecoms, financial services, and a couple of one or two other industries that this might apply to in the context of my presentation. So, building business and consumer insights in a pervasive world of internal and external data. Key background issues. The marketing research industry in Nigeria, in particular, that's the one that I know. I've done most of my marketing here in this country. Has been traditionally synonymous with collection and analysis of insight for external data on consumers, competition, and channels. What I mean by this is that traditionally, marketing research is an external data collection function. Because we have a problem, we want to do a channel research, what's happening at the retail store, what's happening at channel, do we have the right consumer insight, do we know what consumers are doing in the channel, what are the competition doing, how is the competition positioned, how is the product of the competition positioned. We call a research agency and we say, go and investigate competition, consumer, and channel data for us and bring us consumer insight. So the traditional marketing research function, as I got to know it when I started marketing, was an external function to the organization.
It was the collection, synonymous to the collection of external data. The origin of marketing research industry, and I think it's not an accident, has been in the FMCG industry. And that's why it is not an accident that most of you, the practitioners, starting from the mother institution, RMS, and a whole lot of you guys, are traditionally located on the other side of the lagoon. Because you are not, in the past, traditional marketing research function did not serve this side of the bridge. Service industry was smaller. Corporate Nigeria was largely defined by what was happening at the Ikeja. And therefore, like your advertising agency brothers and sisters, everybody was on the other side of the lagoon on the mainland. Because traditional marketing research has largely served the manufacturing consumer goods industry, where the consumer, and I will talk about this very soon, where the consumer is largely external to the organization. And therefore, marketing research is about going to the consumer who is outside the organization to say, go and find me insight about this customer, about this consumer or this customer. Over the last decade and a half, especially in the last few weeks, when we have reconfirmation of the size of the Nigerian economy as a $500 billion economy, a rebased economy in which the service sector completely dwarfs telecoms in those sector, 9-10% of the GDP of Nigeria. When you put financial services, you put other service industries, you will find an industry today, the service sector, that is 10, 20, maybe 5, 6 times bigger than mine, where traditional marketing research are situated. Now, this is very important to put in context of the clients that you serve. That if more of the businesses that you yourself know it, since telecoms came to Nigeria about 10, 15 years ago, you will see that you are doing more with the service industry than the traditional manufacturing industry. Now, if your client base has changed and the nature of the industries that you serve has changed, it beholds that you also need to look at where we came from, the tools that we brought with us. Are they good enough to serve a client industry where service industry is a far bigger portion of the businesses that we serve compared to our traditionally consumer FMCG, consumer industry space? We see telecommunications, the rapid growth of telecommunications in Nigeria. We see the rapid growth of financial services, banking, insurance, also payment services are now evolving in the market. We see the rapid growth of media, DSTV, GoTV. I went to my hometown in Osun State. I will go to Olukono. For those of you who do not know, so I can tell you where I'm from. Olukono, Iwo is very close to where I'm from. And I was surprised going for a share function there that I saw GoTV all over Iwo. Everybody had a satellite dish. That was not what I knew, I expected. Everybody was supposed to be watching NTA. So the pervasiveness of media, everybody is watching, and some little pub is out there that is showing some super sport or something all over the place. So we have an industry, telecommunications, consumer banking, media and entertainment. These are not the traditional industries that research has served. And these are the new industries that are growing bigger, and the rate of growth will continue to be bigger than manufacturing. A key characteristic of this new service industry is that the consumer is, unlike manufacturing, the consumer is external. It's not external to the organization. In a beer business, if the drinker of Gulda beer is the guy that you want to go and interview at the pub or at the bar, in telecoms, the user of your product is actually internal to the organization, to you, because you actually see what they do every day on your network. And that's one of the key things I want to leave with you in terms of key takeouts of my discussion with you today. That we are now in a world where the service industry is now bigger, where we have consumer services, we have financial services, we have telecoms, we have media and entertainment, we have digital industry, we have payment industries, where the radical thing that has happened is that the consumer is no longer external to the organization as a traditional fast-moving consumer goods industry. So to get insight on how consumers use my beer in the old days of Unilever or Heineken, I would have had to go and see this consumer at their usage point, at their outlets where they visit, or I will visit them in their consumer households. In the new service industry of telecoms, banking, media and entertainment, I can see what they do every day, every second, every minute on my network. I have their data already with me. The customer base, I know that I have a customer base that I know. If I do organize my data properly, I know them by name, I know them by their profile, I know them by where they live, I know them by their usage, I know them what they do every second. Compare this to the marketing manager of there's a company called Cheese Product or something, which you deliver product. Compare this to the marketing manager of the 1980s or the 1975. This is a different industry because the consumer data to the client is also as available, probably more available to the client more than you as an external research agency, because the consumer is internal to the organization. So essentially, we're in a new world of pervasive customer behavioral data. The client, because he can see what customers do in the service industry like telecoms and financial services, he can see their behavior. I know what they do, I know where they shop. And these are the kind of things that you can see. You can virtually watch the behavior of your customers every day as a client. You know where do they stay, what they do, where they go, who they call, what product they use, where they shop, who they are transferring money to and for what purpose, where they withdraw money, where they pay, what they watch, for how long they watch those channels, the sequence of watching those channels, where they are located, where they are visiting online if they're on the internet, what they do there, what content are they generating, who is talking to them, or who is calling them, or who are they calling, the content that they generate. Data is now far more pervasive, far much more than the days in which we call on the research agency to go and give us external data that is external to the organization. That is the nature of the client today that you have. And of course, we are working as client and research agency in the context of a pervasive world of customer, of internal and external customer data. So we're now in an era of big data. Big data essentially means pervasiveness of data. This is a new era of big data. Data everywhere. Internet data collection on a massive and pervasive scale has been made possible by digital technology. Because of digital technology, because computers, we can see so many things. Behavior of customers, what they do is now as available. So why do I need to call you? But I still need to call you. I'm going to talk about it. I need to call you because there are things that you may not know just by looking at your own data alone. But there are also things that you may know by looking at what your customers do with other people. But that is the world we are. We are in the world of a new era of big data. Your president mentioned some discussions we had. That was way back. It actually reminded me of when we were chatting in 2004 about one presentation which I gave, democracy, deregulation, and digitalization, and the new challenges of marketing in Nigeria. And I actually went to look at it. Interestingly, at that time, we were talking about how those 3 D issues are going to combine to change the nature of marketing practice. And I just maybe give a quote from that presentation. It's interesting that it was about May, June 2004, about 10 years ago, that we had this discussion at, I think it was at the Lagoon restaurant at that time. That essay is on my blog. My blog address is there for those who are interested. It says that the objective context of marketing programs of business organizations with regards to the environment of such programs is witnessing fundamental shifts necessitating a rethink of the way we do marketing. The combined forces of democracy, deregulation, and digitalization, they are calling 3D forces on the business environment, is changing the economic structure of many industries with potential seismic effects. Digital technology in the last 10 years has changed everything. The nature of industry, the way we practice marketing, and it's going to change more and more. I hear words like digital natives. Today, the kind of things that our kids do on the internet, we cannot even match them. And when it comes to digital stuff, I recognize that in terms of demographic, I belong to a different generation. I know the issues, the questions to ask, but I need to go to those who are more conversant with life on the net, to go a bit at the younger generation who are running digital agencies, and the kind of things these guys are doing, running digital agencies, it's amazing. That is the new world that we are. That data is not pervasive. Digital technology has enabled companies, research institutions to gather and collect customer behavioral data on a scale that we have not known before in marketing practice. So we are now in a new world of what I call data tsunami. That is the context in which we are practicing marketing today. That's the context in which you as a research agency is supporting the marketing practice, marketing profession. A new world of overwhelming data. Data everywhere. Data every time. The marketing manager can be potentially overwhelmed unless he can build a logic to organize the pervasiveness of data that he has got with him for effective use. The marketing manager does not do this. He can be potentially overwhelmed and confused. He will suffer from decision paralysis. Decision paralysis is, it would have been better to have few data so that he can at least take decisions. When he has complete data tsunami, data overload, is confused. What exactly is the issue that I have to deal with as a marketing manager? Channel is talking, customer behavior is talking, usage behavior, lifestyle, also the geography. What is the issue? And it is a big potential problem for the marketing manager, potentially suffering from decision paralysis, out of data overload, data tsunami, or taking blind decisions that have no deep roots in the understanding of our business. Because the way marketing managers will deal with this is that when they are confused, what my marketing manager will do, typically some of us will ignore the data we do not understand, or the insight that we have. And we are going to be taking 100% judgment on our comfort of the data section we are comfortable with. What you tend to get in those kind of situations is that the quality of decision the marketing manager who's overwhelmed with tsunami of data is going to be very poor, because he has decided to what we call in media selective attention. He selects attention to the data that I'm comfortable as a marketing manager. So in this new world of data tsunami, the marketing manager can be potentially overwhelmed by the pervasiveness of data. There are 4 sources of business or consumer data, or call it intelligence. Because again, we need to talk very briefly about this. The concept of data, marketing research data, is also about business intelligence. In fact, you need to see yourself not as marketing research people, but you are part of what we call a business intelligence function in an industry. Intelligence is about what it means. Intelligence is about spy. The more insight that I have, the better business I will do. So the research agencies need to see themselves as a part of a bigger business intelligence function of the industry. And there are 4 sources of what I call business or marketing intelligence. You could have the commission research, which you do with the external research agency, which are external data to the organization, the consumer, the commission, and the channels, as we talked about. We could have secondary data sources, which the clients too can also access now today, because now the base data, the National Institute of National Bureau of Statistics data, all of them are now on the internet. You also have what I will call the service usage and customer behavioral data, which are the things that are internal to the organization based on the behavior of customers that we see in telecoms or in financial services every day, where they deposit money, where they withdraw their ATM, who they call, and so on. And the 4th one, of course, is what I will call the online digital behavior or customer content, what they do online, the content that they generate, how you analyze it to get customer insight. Now, what's the role of the research agency in this context? We must recognize, the research agencies need to recognize this new context, that beyond commissioned research, clients today have 100,000 times more data sources than you will have thought about in the traditional market, in the traditional FMC industry. Commission research may just be only 5% of the information collected by the client. Before, in the old FMC industry, commission research used to be 90% of the data available to the client. Today, commission research may just be 10% of the information available to the client. What does this mean for the research agency? So this is data confusion. Different data sources may not be necessarily talking to themselves. I want to talk about this very briefly. Now, you have a situation where the research agency collects data. I have data that are picked for my customer usage behavior on my own computers and my systems. I have what they do online. So I have 3 different types of data sources. In many instances, because these data are not structured to talk to themselves, that is the source of the confusion. And the client is confused. Agency is talking this, internet information is talking this, my customer behavior using data is talking something different. The data are not organized in a structure in which they can talk to themselves, leading to a potential frustration between the client and the research agency. Because you bring your research, the guy looks at it and says, the problem, the question that my managing director asked me, or when the question that was asked at the board meeting last week, this research that you have brought for me is not going to help me to answer it. Because they're asking me questions about your customers who made a call at 10:55 yesterday, how much were they spending? They are talking about revenues. Because one of the beauty of internal customer data is that you can actually link what they do to the money that you make. The challenge with external research is that this link is not as clear. So when I look at my customer data, I can say, this kind of customers, this is what they do, and this is how much I will make from them. I can use my external customer data to answer more serious revenue questions, much more than I can get from my external research. But that's also because of the way external research is collected, because it's not talking to the revenue need of the client. Therefore, you have some very creative communications research standing on its own. A lot of us love the brand. So we have these brand interests to hang in there. Then somebody is talking real numbers about customer base. 500,000 customers, they spend 15 naira per second, it translates to this amount of money per minute. Then you also have something. So the data sources are not talking to themselves. So client is frustrated because he says my research agency is not helping me. So the research agency needs to understand this new context. And for the research agency to add value to the client, I want to say to you that it's important that you understand the business of your client. If you don't understand the business of your client, the data that you collect will not talk to the internal data that is collecting at the behavioral level of his customer base. It is the one reason why clients, especially research agencies that used to live in the traditional world of FMCG, collecting lifestyle brand information that comes to the client is asking, so what do I do this? How much money? So all these things you are telling me, when I go tomorrow to the meeting, how much do I say I can make? And that's the kind of research that we're not getting from the traditional research agency. What you do may be working for Gouda, you can say how many bottles of the share, blah, blah, blah. But the data sources, external and internal, needs to be organized to talk to themselves. And you need to organize data in a way in which a client can use it to answer a real business question, which is about money, revenue. If your data is not collected in a way in which a client can answer real revenue questions, a whole lot of your clients are going to be moving on to other sources of data so that for them to run their business better. So it's important that we organize internal and external data for insight to talk to themselves. Internal and external data need to talk to themselves to extract consumer insight. And the only way this can happen, and this is also a key takeout for my presentation to you. The only way we can organize internal and external data to talk to themselves is one simple thing, going back to the basic segmentation. If you are not organizing and collecting your data internally and externally on the basis of clear, actionable segments, you will have all sort of confused jumble of data that are not talking to themselves, and the clients will be confused about what to do. So segmentation, engage your clients. How do you segment your business? And it's not just segmentation. I will call it actionable segmentation. Actionable segmentation is segmentation that is relevant to driving business revenues. If you collect your data on the basis of actionable revenue segments, whatever you do must overlay on top of that for the client. Then the client can take your insight and say, if I overlay your lifestyle research on my actionable revenue segmentation, then I can come out of this data, I can develop a business plan, I can take to my board, and they will see that, oh, I know what I'm doing as a marketing manager. So segmentation is very key. When you engage your client, please discuss segmentation. How do you segment your customer base? How does this translate to the the build of your revenues. You need to link what you do to this kind of actionable segmentation for internal and external data to talk to themselves. When you don't do this, whatever you come up with, the client will be trying to do a force fitting of your research, what they know, and of course, the potential for frustrations between the client and the research agency will be very high. Now, you are part of the research organization, you are part of the client organization. So I will say, for example, what do you do to also get insight? Assuming that now you have been able to do action segmentation internally and externally, and the data can plug into themselves and talk to themselves. It is important to get consumer insight, to interrogate data. In a pervasive world of data, data must be interrogated. In the past, it used to be only the research agency. You are the only ones that know how to use SPSS. Today, people like the president said, we go on Excel, we do our own charts, we do our own correlations. So actionable, we need to interrogate data. As you have interrogated data externally, when you bring everything together, we need to interrogate it together. And there are various tools for operations research that can be used to interrogate data to get there are things that we know. Brainstorming. It means that people just put all the data on the table and say, what does this confusion mean? How do we make it sense out of this confusion? If you have clients who are not doing that with you, then you are not likely to be getting the best of consumer insight. Because data will be confusing. There's too much data out there. So you need to sit down with your client to say, okay, this is what we have. Everybody looks at it. What does we do? And you begin to reassemble them to say, what's the logic here? And you begin to build a logic out of the data. And they have something they call fishbone analysis. You want to trace the root causes of problems. For those who know, you can go and check it on the internet or operations research textbook. Fishbone analysis. Why method? So why is it that customers do this? Why is it that they do that? Why is it that they do that one? People say that by the time you get to the third why, you are more likely to be getting to the real cocoa of the consumer insight. If you don't do this kind of why analysis with your client, using your data, you are not likely to be getting to the deep roots of consumer insight and helping your client. Cause and effect analysis, problem definition. When problems are not clearly defined by clients, the solutions are also not likely to be very articulate. So one of the things you need to do as a research agency is who's in the business of helping clients to get consumer insights, is to ask them to define their problem. And it needs to be written down. When they can define the problem clearly, then we'll know the problem that we're trying to solve. I can tell you that 8 out of 10 times, the challenge of business is that we are not sure what problem we are solving. Problem definition is a big problem. A lot of people cannot clearly define their marketing problem. If you can help them define a marketing problem, what information you need to go and find out for a solution will be clear to the client. Then the other one, of course, the what I call the variable and relational analysis. What is the relation between this X and Y? All the variables need to be related. All the things that we learn in business schools that looked abstract, chi-square, correlations, they are now useful tools today in the world of pervasive data. If you know how to use those tools, you can actually bring out consumer insight to say, customers that do X and Y, they are more likely to do B and J, and can build statistical and mathematical model, and actually be able to predict what your customers are likely to do on a weekly basis. That's the level that business intelligence and consumer research needs to get to, because we now have the real data to do statistical and mathematical modeling on the scale that we have not known before. Now, getting to the head of my presentation, the challenge of pervasiveness of data in the world of big data is that the client and the marketing manager is caught between two extremes, between granularity on one hand, detail, and big picture on the other side. And the client is constantly, a good marketing manager is constantly trying to balance. I need detail. But the problem is this: if you are too granular, data is like a sea of data. We said data tsunami, very interesting analogy. The marketing manager must dive into the data, go deep into the sea, and he must also dive out. The problem is that if he dives in too much, at the point where he's diving in, he's not seeing the big picture. If he's diving above the data, he's also not seeing the detail. The marketing manager in a world of data tsunami must balance between granularity and big picture. With granularity, you miss, with granularity only, the marketing manager will miss the big picture. It will only tackle the tactical issues, but not the strategic ones. And that can only lead to marginal marketing success. If it's only doing big picture, it will only tackle the pictorial issues, but it will not be tackling the detail. And that will lead to poor execution of strategy. A good, successful marketing manager is the one who can dive in and dive out and find the right balance between granularity and the big picture. And these are the kind of engagement you need to have with your clients so that they can get great consumer insight for their business. So I want to ask you, I've been trying to take you through the journey of what you do, what I've seen you do from my side, and the kind of frustration we've had with you in the past. I hope you have been reflecting. I want to ask you, in context of what I've been describing, what are your reflections on how you can help your clients to build great business and consumer insights so that they can become more successful? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.